Hello, everybody. Doug here from 2 Plus Tough. I wonder how you're doing today. Big news on the Age of Sigmar front because Games Workshop just dropped their most recent battle scroll for us. And I did one of these for the last time that one of these suckers was dropped on our heads. And I don't know, it helps people go through it a little bit. So there's several folks who are drivers, truckers, that kind of stuff, or just people who can't easily reach out and start reading on stuff to keep up with what's going on in wargaming. And there's a lot of meaty things in this article that someone like me super appreciates. So here's what I mean by that. Like, not only do we get I'll go to the actual page. Not only do we get their meta watch wrapped in with the battle scroll, but also a huge explanation of kind of their reasoning. And so I'm gonna just kind of be upfront and honest with you. The last battle scroll I totally flippin' missed because life was just so crazy over the summer. I got no games Age of Sigmar in for a long time, like really since Vault Wars. I think I got one game in after that. So it's just been crazy. So I don't know, but anyway, so coming back into this, trying to like figure out where things are at, I was expecting something like, I don't know, like a different type of unit within the army to be incredible. So like maybe mounts get crazy bonuses or whatever this time to incentivize cavalry, something like that. Because the first time it was monsters, the second time it was infantry with the Galatian things. But this is more of like a copy paste type thing. And so I'm a bit perplexed. And so, like I said, there's a lot of gaps in my memory because I was out for so many months. So if you wouldn't mind, as we go through this, I'd love to just do a chat and kind of catch up and figure out what's going on in kind of the competitive circles of Age of Sigmar. So let's do this. Let's see. Welcome back to the Age of Sigmar Meta Watch from the Warhammer Studio. We know you've been eagerly awaiting the next battle scroll, so here it is. Let's crack it open here. Now, they put it up top, so I assume they want us to go through it in this particular order. So, changes are in magenta. Okay. Purple Sun. Change the end given form ability to subtract 1 from save rolls for attacks that target units within 6 inches of this endless spell. In addition, roll a dice for each unit within 1 of this endless spell. After it's moved on a 1... it's been touched by the Purple Sun's rays. If it has a wounds characteristic of 9 or less, one model in that unit is slain. If that unit has a wounds characteristic of 9 or less. Okay, so the Purple Sun got good at hitting things that are 10 wounds and up, but only one infantry model. Is that correct? That sounds interesting. One model is slain. Right, because before it was just deleting massive hordes of units, right? Can someone explain that to me? I know the Purple Sun meme has shown up a lot online. I have never used that endless spell and never intended to. So, also don't go to events. For Grand Alliance Order, none of this is magenta, so I'm going to skip over it because if you've been trying to pay attention, then you know more than me. I'm not going to rehash everything. But there are some interesting things here. One is for Grand Alliance Chaos. Under the Beast of Chaos, change the Primal Roar Monstrous Rampage from White Dwarf issue 473 to, and the change is you roll a die on a 3-up, you receive 1 Primordial Call Point. Now, here's the interesting thing with that is not so much the actual rule change. I don't really know what that does for them off the top of my head, but what I do find very interesting is that they decided to include the White Dwarf stuff. Before the errata, the Purple Sun would insta-kill any model on a roll of a 1. Okay, I get you. So it's scary, it's just not belligerent. Okay. So anyway, I just point this out because I think it's interesting whenever they point out a White Dwarf issue. And then for Grand Alliance Destruction. So I had a bit of confusion here, and maybe I honestly haven't looked at the rules for Bone Splitters in so long. I looked at this. It says Bone Splitters. Change the spirit of the Gorka Morka battle trait. If the unmodified hit roll for an attack made with a melee weapon by a friendly Bone Split is a 6, it scores 2 hits on a target instead of 1. I don't understand what's different about that. It hasn't. Isn't that the way it always has been? Am I crazy? I don't know. Someone can answer me that, because I see Ritoyo Blum in happy for Cruel Boys, but still sad for your nerf, and like, I don't I don't perceive a nerf. I don't really understand. A wee bit lost, but that's the only one I was like scratching my head reading this. I was like, I don't. What did I gain or lose? Hasn't this always been the rule? Swamp Call a Shaman got a change. Remove this text from the spell instead of attempting to dispel an endless spell or cast any spells in this phase. So he got a great thing because it basically freed up his opportunity cost. So he doesn't have to, instead of, he can do all. That's cool. Gloomspite gets add the following to the note section of the Arachnarok Spider with Spider Fang War Party. Battle line, if the general is Spider Fang. Heck yes. How is that not always the case? Man, that's a nice one. I like it. Because they should have something like that. Because that makes it, well, I was about to say something terribly, embarrassingly stupid. I was like, that makes it the only destruction army that can be super elite. Thinking, of course, Sons of Behemoth. But I was thinking within the greenskin stuff of like what the orcs and goblins used to be. Whatever. Jordan Fletcher, my spider army is legit now. There you go. That's awesome. If I remember right, the old rules that you need at least 5 models. Yeah. Okay. Yes. That was pretty much where I left off last time. Okay. I assumed I had missed something. Thank you so much, Cabbage Lord. Yes, the original in the rule set required that. And then I remember they made the change to this, so any model can. But then I saw people online saying, like, sorry for my nerf. And I'm like, I don't understand. But maybe they were just misunderstanding or they wanted more or something like that. I'll just chalk it up to a miscommunication. Okay. I was like, yes, I remember that you had to have so many models because it meant the pigs all of a sudden couldn't do it, but I thought we fixed that already. Okay, so I'm not crazy. And then, so we'll go past that because that's all the immediate changes. And here we go. So, I'm going to take a look here. Cities of Sigmar, Charybdis went down. Why? Because you should always take a Charybdis. They're just pointing you towards the obvious primordial truth that is one of their coolest model kits. War Hydra, likewise. Dreadlord on Black Dragon. Okay, that's cool. That's rad. Sorceress on Black Dragon. Executioners. Executioners, from what I understand, are still quite nasty, right? So, yeah. Seraphon, they got some points increases across probably all of their command structure. They were like, anyone who doesn't just have a beat stick is too smart for their own good. 20 to 30 points increase, whatever. Stormcast Eternals, basically a lot of the new stuff went down. A lot of the new stuff that isn't immediately already oppressive, so like Vanquishers, Praetors, Vigilers, those kinds of things. The stuff that they're trying to get people to buy. Let's see. The Beast of Chaos, the Cockatrice, and Dragon Ogres both went up. And I am very curious why Dragon Ogres went up. Was there a thing that I was not seeing when people were like, hell yeah, Dragon Ogres? And the Cockatrice is just astounding because I think this is the first time they've acknowledged its existence in a while. The Hedonites of Slanesh, point decreases all around. I feel like we keep seeing similar point decreases for Glutos. I believe has had a couple of point decreases over time, hasn't he? I think. Interesting. Okay. Maggotkin, everything went up. Blight Lord specifically. Yeah. Skaven, everything went down. Flesh Eater Courts, price cuts. These are all like 15 to 20 point increments here. Ossiarch Bone Reaper, Soulbreaker. Okay, I'm gonna skip past the ones who just got straight across the board in point increases or decreases, because what's more interesting to me is if the units show a pattern, like the Seraphon, all the wizards and all that kind of stuff, the interplay of Slann and Skink, that specifically was the issue, and that tells me something. As far as the Orc War Clans, okay, get to my boys. Beast Skewer Killbows went down. Gut Rippers went down. Killaboss on Nashif, cool. Wargok Prophet went up. That is a bummer. Gobsprat, Killboss, Savage Big Stabbers, plus 20. And Savage Boarboy Maniacs, plus 10. You know, I'm not really seeing the negative here. Like, I mean, the effective control list that I had is relatively untouched. I think my list goes up 30 points, and I had that to spare because I was always fishing for a triumph. So, like, that's fine. I'll take it. Because my thing was using Boar Boys. I only had one unit of Boar Boy Maniacs, and I only had one thing of Big Stabbers. I know that the big deal lately has been like a lot of Big Stabbers. Stabbers out the nose, but that was never my thing. It's just, it doesn't seem right. I don't know. It's cool that people love it. I'm glad. Buy more of that kit. Keep the army around. The profit going up, I think, is fair. I think enough people have made a big deal about the kill counts of that thing's stare over the months that all of a sudden they got someone's attention. So with that being said, let's go through their explanation here. I'm going to read this out loud, so if you have anything to say, just go ahead and chime in. We'll go ahead and address it. But understand, I come from this with a non-competitive mindset. I'm just trying to understand what the trends are and that kind of thing. So enlighten me if you know more. The first thing you'll notice with this Battlescroll is that we've tweaked the format a bit to carry forward any rules changes from previous Battlescrolls that are still in effect. In future, Battlescroll changes will be handled as follows. There will only ever be one active Battlescroll at a time. Okay, I thought that was already the case. They're dated. Rules changes will be carried forward until they have been printed in a book. Core changes from Battlescroll Gods and Heroes have now been printed in the latest General's Handbook. Okay. So what they're saying is Battlescroll stuff. So as those things are adjusted and becoming set in stone, they'll just be gradually incorporated into the competitive version of the game. So like the General's Handbook at that point becomes a snowball of fixes, tweaks, which is not bad. New rules changes will always be highlighted magenta. Points changes will be summarized, but will not be carried forward into future battle scrolls, as they will be implemented into the Age of Sigmar app and War Scroll Builder. That's fair. That's fair, provided that the app updates it simultaneously. And that has not always been the case. Because at that point, you would be buying a product where the information about it is false, and you would have no way of accessing it reasonably. Oh no, Doug is lost. Get that man a map. Okay, I'm going to pause right here for a quick bit. All changes, including points, will be included in errata documents. Okay, and they still have their links to their long FAQ stuff. So as long as they're updating that and the apps at the same time, I'm actually super cool with this. So let's pause there. That is their stated goal. Does anyone have any deep, meaningful thoughts about that? I will recap the chat. The Prophet is X-Men Cyclops. He truly is, and it's amazing. Plus 20 points to the Wargog Prophet. I'm still going to send it. Exactly. He's still... The amount of board control that something like that offers is absolutely like, yeah, take two, they're small. I don't care. I'm gonna have one in the backfield to actually mean business round 3. I'm gonna have the first one up your nose trying to make you scared of moving. That sounds awesome. But as far as the format goes, I guess I struggle to understand what the difference between the battle scroll and just the FAQ and errata is, if it's going to be back and forth. Is it just to have a more convenient single format? Because I mean, this is the battle scroll exists for official matched play format, right? That's my thought. And so this is like a separate set of FAQs and entries, because FAQs theoretically are more for clarification than like balance things, I would suppose. So I don't know. I'd love to hear your thoughts. I want to know the difference, because I don't understand it conceptually. I'm like, so how is this not just more stuff to keep track of? I'm going to move on here. Go ahead and leave your thoughts on the previous section, and we can always recap later. Oh, here we go. Corey Bragg. So, for instance, the FAQ is ongoing for a faction constantly added to the battle scroll, adds or adjust rules for the state of the game at that time. That is probably the best explanation I could hope for. That's fair. The state of the game. Now, I have a question. This battle scroll is called Galatian Reinforcements. Does this mean the previous one where Galatian veterans as a keyword came into existence is... Oh, no, that's from the GHB. Never mind. I see. Forgive me, I'm thinking out loud. Okay. So we'll go with this MetaWatch here. As we explained in a previous installment of MetaWatch, we have 3 primary short-term goals for balance and competitive play for Warhammer Age of Sigmar. Gotcha. Awesome, Corey. Thank you so much, buddy. Those rules went out the window with the new GHB. Got it. So it's like a midterm adjustment sort of thing. So here's their 3 pillars they're aiming for. External balance. All factions should have a win rate of 45% and 55%. I have a question about that, but I'm going to finish this section before I ask it. Internal balance. At least 60% of the war scrolls should be used in at least 5% of army rosters. 60%. Okay. At least 60% of war scrolls should be used. So does that mean there is a way for our army to take anything that it wants, kind of a deal? Or is it just they're trying to incentivize unit variety and 5% is their acceptable margin for, like, this means it's a good smattering? I don't understand that one. And then universal options. Universal war scrolls such as endless spells and universal enhancements should be used in under 10% of army rosters. I like that figure, though. David, it works 60% of the time. It works every time. Awesome. Yes, midterm adjustment. Okay, cool. So my question when it comes to external balance. Okay, all factions should have a win rate between 45 and 55%. I'm asking math questions here, guys, and I'm sorry, I'm not a math guy. Does the difficulty in collecting an army affect that at all? So, like, if an army is difficult to get a hold of, say, I think Skaven is a very difficult army for new players to get into because of the kind of structure of it. It's gotten way better with the new Battle Tome. I think it's in a really good spot, but like for the longest time, it was terrible to try and get into. Same thing with Gloomspite. If you want to go, Moonclay and Grotz, that's a lot of miniatures. Does the ease of access change things? Now, obviously, like on a 1-to-1, their win rate could be different, but I would feel like if fewer people are playing a given faction or sub-faction, there's less chance that it would get that. So you could overcorrect, and then some, wonderkin of Age of Sigmar, my boy Jack Ballard, will come in and be like, Stormcast with guns? Yes, please. Yes and no. Armies with a lot of scrolls have units just outshine. Oh, I see. That's a good point, Corey. So the thing you pointed out is yes and no. Armies with lots of scrolls, like cities and stormcasts, have units that just outshine other units in their own book, but it's based on competitive play, so collection limits isn't as impactful. Gotcha. So they're not necessarily looking for collection, they're just trying to get you to dip into other parts of the book. Cool, I'm getting blasted by all kinds of stuff. Tinder Hot XY adult dating site. So, my old friend, my favorite fan, if they only knew all they had to do was throw enough money in the tip jar. 2 Plus Stuff brought to you by Tinder Hot XYZ. Best adult dating site.com. Please don't go to that. This is not an endorsement. Okay, so I'm looking at this. So great point out, Corey. Thank you so much. But if only advanced players play as an army, it might have a higher win rate. But that's not the math issue. It's about how people play. Yeah, that's the thing. I don't really want to go into like Math Hammer. I don't care about statistics. Like, I could not care less. I had to ask a man at Hy-Vee what the numbers meant around the football screen. He's like, oh, it's for sports betting. I'm like, okay. Good to know. Anyway, so we're looking at these numbers here. At least 60% of work. I like their goal though of the endless spells, is that everything has an option, but it's not disincentivized, but it's there specifically for people who don't have an alternate. Right? I need a mortal wound spell and whatever. Beasts of Chaos, where are they at? So Beasts of Chaos are doing good. 61%. I assume this is the win rate right here. And where are my boys? Bone Splitters. Ooh, 56% win rate. That's a bump up. I honestly think it's just because more people are trying it. More brains got on the same thing. Oof, what happened? Who hurt Bone Splitters? Is it because the 2 plus saved from the past? What is it? The Bone Reapers? Where are they at? Oh, Bone Reapers. And it stayed the same, right? Isn't that roughly the same? Oh, man. Okay. What are they looking for? 45 and 55%? Okay, so they still got some work to do on a few. That is... But I like the way that they approach that. Now, whether or not they deliver on that, that is somebody smarter than me to decide. But I like the saying, here's our goals kind of a thing. We see your win rates. I'd like to see is fun and plays how you think it should rate. That's, well, it's difficult because of how subjective it is, of course, right? I'm sure you know that, but I understand your point. Other information that I would want to cross layer onto that is like reviews. I wish they had a standardized review form for missions that they put out. And I don't know, a way to give that kind of feedback, because like a win rate, yeah, if we're talking about this, like playing against 200 clan rats or whatever, like it'll probably not do bad, right? It's miserable to play against because of how long it takes, and it just feels grindy. I mean, unless you're just into slaughter. If you have a list that's built to kill things, that could be super fun. You know what I'm saying? But like, there's like a tactile feel that is lost in numbers for sure. I believe the term that is used by Warhammer Weekly is negative play experiences. Anyway, get back to this. Cruel Boys surging up to 40%. I love it. I was actually looking at the Cruel Boys range the other day, and I was like, man, my dislike of them is softening. Okay, number 1, consistent strength. Maggotkin of Nurgle, Beasts of Chaos, Sons of Behemoth, Bone Splitters, and Seraphon have consistently been near the top over the past months. Seraphon win rates have recently dropped, but there are a couple of sub-factions, Fangs of Sotake and Thunder Lizard, that are still overperforming by significant margins, pushing the win rate. Okay, that's an interesting, detailed look. Got some targeted points increases on a few of those heroes. Sons of Behemoth have a new battle tome, so basically, yeah, don't worry about it. Just curious, what wasn't your fave about the Cruel Boys? Just kind of the more lengthy, like, sinewy look. I like the orcs to be like the Bone Splitters, like huge brawny upper body, big heads, goofy looking faces. That's all. Nothing against the actual playstyles. I think I would probably like the actual army as far as on the tabletop. Kronspire combos. A few factions have recently surged. Particularly these effective. The Kronspire, Daughters of Cain, Disciples of Tzeentch are big offenders for there. 80-point increase to the Kronspire. I'll still take it. I don't care. Interesting. Why did they make this? Okay. Never mind. Underperforming factions. So Gloomspite gets Ogre Maw tribes. Hedonites of Slaanesh, Ossiarch Bone Reapers, and Slaves to Darkness with Cruel Boys are currently underperforming and are next targets. That's wonderful. Most of these factions are getting some significant point breaks in this update, while Slave to Darkness will earn a big boost with their shiny new battle tome. I love the fact that they're targeting popular war scrolls for Cruel Boys and kind of giving select changes to see how it goes, like we talked about, where there's no longer an opportunity cost for the Shaman. As far as internal balance, well, our top priority has been external balance. We've also taken our first steps towards improving internal balance, starting with those factions with the most war scrolls, which don't see much use in competitive play. It is important for us to avoid the negative knock-on impacts, so we'll bring making limited set of adjustments to target certain units. Okay, that's fine. They chose Cities of Sigmar, Soulblight, Gravelords, Skaven, and Seraphon, so stuff with a lot of war scrolls to start nudging. Which is good for them. I mean, they were honest that it's the first time they're trying it, so we'll see. Okay, well, I'm going to pause here. There's some interesting stuff in the chat here. Time to finish my Cruel Boys. Yes, seeing what Groth and Orc. They're cool. I mean, I certainly like them. I don't like the Hobgrots at all. But the Cruel Boys are growing on me. Slowly. Like a fungus. Barbos. They should include player numbers for clarity. For example, out of 1,000 Stormcast players, having a 48% is great balance compared to 50 daughters. That's fair, I guess. I mean, at a certain point, it's not so much a detailed statistical analysis presentation. It's more just like a quick, quite frankly, something that they can show shareholders, like, look what we're doing. We're talking about it like it's sports coverage. That kind of stuff. But I understand what you're saying. Mad damage like the Cruel Boys. Lord, I think of them as radiated diseased orcs. Yeah, they're pretty cool. I love them in the Minion book. That's true. Okay, back here, universal options. Last month we tweaked the Purple Sun. We're happy to report it's seen a 35% reduction in inclusion since. It's now sitting at 15.1 inclusion, still above our target, but now trending downward. Okay. Cool. The Kronspire Incarnate of Gur is currently included in 12.2% of rosters, but the average win rate for armies, which included it, was 58%, so we gave it a points increase. That's an interesting thing to take away, to try and extrapolate from, because it's not far off from their goal of 10%. But if the 10% who have it, I don't know. Next steps. I have an exciting few months because Lumineth Realm Lords and Tzeentch. A lot of change happening. Upcoming Slaves to Darkness. And here we go. And it's pretty much just giving us a summary, a text summary. So we'll skip past that. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to the downward cam and paint, and we can just chat about it. Or we can talk about how can we include things like I don't know, how fun it is to play against in some capacity. I wish there was like a review system, but there's just not. It's just not a universal way to give feedback. In my horrid dystopian future, somebody buys out Best Coast pairings and integrates a review section where, when your opponent uploads their list, you can then comment on it as far as... I mean, obviously it's still subjective, but it is information. But even that has problems. I don't know. There's problems everywhere. No matter how you try to solve something. Everything's terrible. That's not the lesson we learn here at 2 Plus Stuff. Honestly, the worst part of the hybrid right now for me personally. Yeah, can we talk about how awesome the shaman change is? David, I would love for you to talk more about it. We did mention it. I mean, I brought it up because I read it, but I didn't. I don't know much about. Yes, I'll get to that in a second here. But yeah, I didn't know too much about like what they actually had struggles with. So if you understood the plight of the cruel boy, or not, sorry, the cruel boy, let me know. I would love to know. I was talking earlier about how I'm actually just recently started getting more and more intrigued with that whole section of the army. Just because summer's been so crazy, I stepped away from AOS just a little bit. Not because I fell out of love with it or anything. I just haven't played a lot of games. But I did find a local gentleman who was interested in starting up. I think he has Zinch. And so I'm excited to get a game in with him. Schedule-wise, it just never seems to work out, though. And Keegan, yes, I understand. So, like, you know, competitive stuff is not my cup of tea either in any way, shape, or form. But I like to keep up on it because I like to know what the general tenor of things is. Like, when I go to an event, how stoked is everybody? Because sometimes you will go to an event and people are like, this sucks. Everything sucks. Because my faction's terrible. We just got this update, or, you know, this event's not allowing me to use X. And it's like, I don't care about any of that. Are you having fun? If you're not having fun, just put it all away, man. Okay, so now they can cast spells plus use the potions, which means you can now throw out a mystical shield and an elixir, so Rippas go to 4 up, ignore 1 rend. Sweet! That's awesome. Do you play 40k as well as AOS? You know, funny you should mention that. I am actually just getting into 40k. I found... The main reason I wasn't playing 40k before is because I found the game to be very intimidating. Lots of competitive folks in my area of Seattle where we lived. Like they're kind of competitive. Like they had a team that would go down to like LVO every year and like come back with all kinds of trophies. Like it was a gaming group and it's awesome. It just wasn't what I was there for. And so I struggled to have fun with it. However, locally, the same gentleman who I just mentioned is looking to get into AOS with Zinch. He loves 40k, and he's quite good at the game. A local friend named Michael, he's a very cool guy. We played a Horus Heresy game last week and had an absolute blast. Sons of Horus lost, but it came down to basically a leadership check. I had Justarian Terminators up his nose. Um, let's see. But yes, I'm just getting into it. I haven't built anything yet. Like I did some trading with a buddy Rob to get the Dominus half in Dominus set, whatever it was. But I haven't actually built anything out of it. That's kind of next on my build list. Because I want to, I just, now that I have people that seem actively into it and like I can learn from, I don't have to be like the teacher Doug. But yeah. I'm gonna do Space Marines, White Scars. I don't know if I actually said that yet. Mainly because Space Marines were easily accessible by trading with my buddy Rob, and White Scars are the most... They are the savage orcs of the Space Marine chapters, in my opinion. Just running forward and dying real hard. As far as the changes to the game go, I was a bit taken back by how few there actually were. Like, I don't know. White Scars, you've been talking to Dan too much? Okay, it's true that I've been talking to Dan too much, but in addition to that, apropos of nothing, no, I have started reading more and more about them. I actually listened to a podcast called Adeptus Ridiculous, I think is what it is. It's sort of like a lore podcast, but it's just two guys explaining each other. Like, one is always presenting the lore to the other person, who acts as just kind of a listener and a voice for the audience. Very fun. Having a wonderful time listening to it. They did a White Scar one, and the Khan had a quote, and it didn't click with me how cool he was until I heard the quote. But it's basically Fulgrim boasting that he could take the Khan on in a battle. And the Khan was like, no, you'll lose. You'll lose because, like, you will treat it like a game, like you treat everything. And I won't. Like, I will be out for effing blood. And he had this, I don't know, I'm kind of stumping it, but it was an awesome monologue. And so then I was like, ooh, interesting. And so then I, at Half Price Books, found a copy of the White Scar supplement, the one they're still using. And I was like, oh, I'll just read up on them. And then I was like, these guys are awesome. Andrew, what type of armies are you drawn to? Based on the lore, aesthetics, gameplay. So, if we're talking gameplay, I am drawn... Okay, so let's back up. I feel like in most games, no matter the system, whether it's Conquest or Age of Sigmar, whatever, generally speaking, you can play the faction you aesthetically like in a lot of different ways. And so the two, aesthetics and gameplay, are not, I don't know, I find rarely in competition with one another, in my opinion. But for me, the first thing I look for is generally aesthetics and lore. The two have to go hand in hand. But that is, to me, the biggest one, certainly. The next biggest thing for me would be gameplay-wise. So, if ever possible, I want the fastest thing on the table. Like, I want the thing that runs forward and punches you in the face. No questions, no thrills. I mean, it should have enough gas in the tank to be good at that action, but that's generally what I want. See my Bone Splitter army. I don't know. I just, that's always been my thing. I want a game that is straightforward, and I like the engagement and rewarding play that comes from getting right up into someone's face turn one. Because it puts the game on tilt. Your opponent is either going to win hard or lose hard, and there's not much in between. And it rewards me for being like, target priority is a good skill that I have. And I like glass cannons, kind of a thing. Which is not really what Space Marines are, but for that specific project, I was more just looking for something to kind of paint around and collect, and yeah. But yes, that's my gameplay thing. If I have to make a choice between aggressive play and the lore and stuff like that, I'll go lore. Like, I'll pick the faction that I think has the better models and story that conveys it. I would rather learn to play in a new way than play with models I don't like. Because that's the only way to do it. Let's see, where's me gold? Here we go. Love me some bricky, yeah. Let's see. 8th and 9th changes were pretty minimal, which is good. Don't have to relearn a textbook. Oh, okay, sweet. That's awesome. You should check out the Amber King if you haven't already. Amber King. I will do that. I have an Audible credit coming up. I made the mistake of buying Lumeth based on the lore and aesthetic. Playing a game with them feels like taking an exam. Yep. Just thinking about playing them induces major... I get it. It's a lot. But there are ways to deal with that. What you do is you start small. Get someone who's willing to play just like 500-point games or something like that with you. Just something real tiny. And you just learn a unit at a time. Right? First time it's a 500-point game, a leader and like 1, maybe 2 units. And just learn those. And then the next game, introduce your army rules. So it's the units you now know and are comfortable with. And you're doing the exact same thing, but now with all your rules. And then you do that with another unit and another unit. And they don't have a huge roster, so, you know, if you get really comfortable, say, using spearmen, whatever their spearmen are called, that skill is going to apply to multiple units, right? Not just one. So it's not like you're learning a ton of different war scrolls, is my point. Oh no, Doug, the Amber King is a YouTube channel. Oh, okay. I will check that out. I thought it was an audiobook. Honestly, it sounded like something that Games Workshop just announced for Black Library or something like that. Let's see. Still a lot of rules to remember, but it seems healthier. Yeah. I think the faction that I guess I'm not called the faction. The book that gave me the most shock, I guess, when I was opening it to try and understand it was like the previous Tau Codex for 40k. I was like, you know what? Sometimes I kind of like the mech look, and there's a whole lot of great third-party miniatures. You know, I'm never going to go to a 40k event if this is the faction I want to do, maybe. And I cracked open that book, my eyes glossed over, and I'm pretty sure, like, I don't know, I had an out-of-body experience just trying to take in the insanity that is that. I was like, gotta have like support systems and all. I mean, just every upgrade imaginable. I was like, I didn't come here to be a Gundam wing pilot. I just want to push a soldier across the dang table. So anyway, that's your old man corner. Tau have always had that. And yeah. My friend's been painting Bone Splitters since AOS dropped, and they're a blast to see on the table. They're so much fun. I very much appreciate them. I think another faction I could really appreciate would be Beasts of Chaos again. That's one that I could do. Yeah, I could do Beasts of Chaos again if the opportunity ever presented itself in full. Although we have a player here and we have so few players, it's not something I'd really ever go looking for just on that fact alone, you know? Oh, Tinder Hot's back. There we go. Doug, Return to the Beast Lord. I think AOS Balance Update is better presented than 40k ones in some way. I've heard that. I've heard that skepticism, that comment, that review from other 40k people that they're like, oh, I really like the way AOS does blank, kind of a thing. Like, it's a compliment. I was like, huh. I don't really know how the 40k ones do theirs. Does it help if we report them individually? I mean, they're bots. Nothing's going to help. This is just the dystopia that we built for ourselves. Sorry, everybody. Sure, go ahead. I've been reporting them as they come up. It's all good. Oh, got another one coming in. Might have to shut her down. Icarus Potion, what are we painting today? This is sort of a kit bash model that I did up for Conquest First Blood. We had a league here. Oh gosh, that reminds me, I have to actually set a end time for when this round starts. But I will do that anyway. So yes, he's a hero unit kind of thing. He is an officer that can attach to multiple units in the faction, and just makes him a little bit nastier in battle. Okay. I'm just kind of preparing them to get a wash in, and then we can build up more color as we go. Let's see. It's hang out. We're just gonna hang out together while that guy's drying. So let's see here. In the Golden Sun story, a demon references a banquet for the Hedonites. Do you know what that was referring to? I'd have to read the story again. I'm not quite sure off the top of my head. AOS right now is a better system in general. It seems like there's a lot less to take in. The shop manager chose to unbox 3 Beastmen Broken Rum boxes, then slap chop all, and now we have a 2,000 point Minotaur army without small gore. That's awesome. I love it. 3 Beastmen box. That's terrific. I like it a lot. Just crank them out. Oh, man. Oh, there we go. What a champion. My store needs combatants. Okay, I think certainly the bottom half of him is done. All right, friends, I think we're going to go ahead and call it here. We did our talk about the Battlescroll update. Not a whole lot, honestly. Was a bit interested in that, but I wanted to go over their thoughts as to why they did what they did. So anyway, thank you all so much, and I will catch you all next time. Happy wargaming to you.